Hello everyone, this is Tony from Two Copper Pieces. I'm the one without the beard, and in this episode I paint this weird looking owl dragon creature thing. You saw it all painted just there at the beginning with the sparkly wings and the intro title that said Magic Movie. I forgot to change it when I created the video. So that's what that is. Here I'm just assembling it. It's obviously in a lot of parts. I got this as part of a set when I was running Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I wanted a bunch of whimsical creatures. This was on the same website as the ones I got those from. I can't remember where they are from. Sorry about that. But I think doing a little bit of Googling for whimsical owl miniatures, you'll be able to find them. Similarly, they have some what are they called? Fairy folk. They have some rabbit folk, herringon, I think they call them. Yeah, etc. I didn't end up getting any of this stuff ready in time to use for the game. We just kind of ploughed on through because the stuff didn't turn up on time and I was very busy. Nevertheless, it's a very nice model, so I just want to show you how I'm going to paint it. Now, I'm trying out a few things here, like in this case, I was going to go for a underpainting of sepia. Let's go for a sepia tone. So I've covered it in this wash. And I thought this would make a nice undercoat for the base of the owl. I want to kind of pick out a few different owl looks for this. So I started off this way. I pivoted after this and went for a slightly different approach. I've gone for trying to paint a barn owl, which is not very, or a barn owl style. Barn owls are very speckled and light, and some colours are kind of pastel-y, and there's a lot of colours over the top of each other. It's not very easy to pull off. So actually, the barn owl, we'll see how we go. I thought I'd just switch. I'm going to do the eyes and see where we get to. Now, painting these eyes is very fun because the eyes are very big. So it was not very difficult at all. Small brush, big eyes, easy peasy. Here you'll see me using a makeshift glass palette. This is just a phone cover. I don't use it anymore. I use an actual glass palette because this broke after lots of taps with a brush, I guess. Now here I am adding some dry brushing again to that sepia underpainting, kind of getting it ready for what I decided I wanted to do in the end. I'm going to use some grim black here to finish off the eyes. Sorry how the videos kind of jump around, but this is the order in which things get painted, really, for me. I know I'm not doing the eyes, I'm trying to get some shadow in there. Yeah, but things get painted for me in this sort of order because when you paint one part of the mini, you either have to wait for it to dry and then continue to paint that part, adding on extra detail, or you can go and paint another bit and then come back to it later, and that's kind of how I approach things. You can also use a hairdryer. You can use a hairdryer or a heat gun or something like that to speed up the drying process. It can be very quick. Nevertheless, it's not what I'm doing here. Doing a bit of dry brushing, and dry brushing works really well in this model because all the feathers are kind of jaggedy and they stick out, so that makes it quite effective. Lots of edges to catch. I find dry brushing work with a dry brush like that works really well with models that have that sort of jaggedy textured surface to them. If you've just got like smooth highs and smooth lows, dry brushing is not great for it, at least not the way I do it. Perhaps other people are a bit better at it. Here I'm trying to lighten up some of the bits there because I've decided the fluffy sort of mane that it has, I want to paint completely black and white, so black underneath the shadows and white on top, like a snowy owl, I guess. The main body will be more like a barn owl, which you'll see a bit later. Managing to get lots of shots of the owl and my hand, but not many shots where the brush actually makes contact with the owl, so sorry about that. Here I am kind of dry brushing on some white to make this a good base for the wings. As you saw in the video, the wings I've decided to paint as like because the wings aren't overly textured, I want to make them look give them a bit of interest, so I'm going to paint them in a cosmic space sort of style. Here I'm going to be adding on some colours for the barn owl soon. Oh no, I'm going back in for the beak. Sorry about that. Now here, eyes done. yeah, going in, just adding some dots there. I love those eyes. I think they stand out really well, nicely. They read as owl eyes and look very characterful. Right, here I'm going to start using some speed paints, just some light amounts of speed paints. I'm putting them on the glass, I'm calling it the glass palette, because I don't want it to kind of soak in through the paper on the wet palette. As you can see here, I'm applying it thickly in some places, thinly in others, and I'm leaving some places bare to get a good shade, good color of yellow. I'll then go back with a different shade and try and fill in some of the gaps. This is to get that mottled and patchy effect that that might mirror the barn owl style a bit more. I know you can't see all of the brush strokes so well, but you can see I'm not doing this super accurately. I think it turned out pretty well. It's a little bit dark for a barn owl, so I'm going to do a bit of dry brushing with some white to pick up some edges a bit more. I've actually, using my really small brush there, did a bit of stippling to try and get some of the, to try and lighten it up in places and give some lighter patches. But yeah, as you can see, looking pretty good. Look at that, nice feathering, not too bad. I think it's got some nice features there. It's hard to say if it looks realistic. I think it's hard to get it exactly right because there is no exactly right with nature. So that lets you off a lot of things, but I think it looks pretty good there. I'm just getting ready to do those wings in that cosmic solar sort of fashion, making sure it's white on all of the blankest bits. And these are the colors I'm going to be using to get this cosmic effect that you saw in the opening little scene. And similarly to how I did the barn owl pattern, actually, I was going to get a few different colors going on there. I'm going to leave some of it white, try and fill in some of it as well. Then we're going to use some black as well once this is done. I'm going to make a bit of a black wash using some speed paint, and I'm going to water it down quite a bit to a sort of wash level, as you'll see. Going to cover the whole thing in that. The reason I want it as a wash is I want those other colors to read through the black. So it looks kind of spacey, but they look kind of nebula-esque. Adding extra, slightly thicker black just under those feathers to give a bit of shadow. And it'll transition nicely. Now, I'm using a dry brush here to catch the edges and also stipple on some stars. Very light bit of paint, and you can see this is the effect. Looking pretty good, I think. I think the white really makes it read cosmically as space. Here's another go at some of the other wings. I've attached these now. I left these bits unattached before because it was going to make it harder to paint the rest of it, but now the rest is painted. They're attached and they are good to go. I wanted to paint them attached so I could see where they were. But yeah, you'll see the finished article shortly. If you're enjoying this content and you like seeing all these different ways to paint that I'm showing you here, if you could hit the subscribe button, the like button, share this video with someone who you think might like it. Yeah, just spread it around. It's the best way you can help out a small YouTube channel gain a bit of publicity. But yeah, I'm very happy with how the wings turned out here. Here's another one. Often with a glass palette, so here you'll see I've got an actual glass palette now. I'll wet my brush, get as much of the water out onto the glass palette as I can, so I can return to that puddle of water to re-wet my brush, not heavily in the jar. So I've got a little pool of water there to return to, damp my brush a bit, and then return to my colours, and I find that is an efficient way to work and efficient and tidy way to work. I like to return to the palette quite a lot. A lot of the time I'm using a really small brush, doesn't hold a lot of paint, but that tends to work best for me. The trouble with the glass palette as opposed to the wet palette, after having used a wet palette for a while, you suddenly realize how quickly paint dries, especially when it gets quite thin. I think some of these contrast paints, you might actually want to use little wells or pots when you squirt them out, because then there'll be less surface area to evaporate. Whereas when they're on the glass palette and they spread out, they evaporate pretty quickly. Thanks for listening anyway, and we'll catch you next time. See you later.